Welcome back, everyone, to Red Spotlight number 317. I'm your host, Alexis Soto, joined by Mr. Peter Martinez, bringing you all the latest stories coming out of the world of movies. This week, we bring you Netflix. They're spending $17 billion on new content. Sony is doing a side hustle with Disney+. Theaters across the country are promoting their first ever Cinema Week. Lindsay Alice responds to her Twitter controversy. And the final Academy.
One of these things is not like the other.
No, they're not. The final Academy Award predictions that are happening the day that this podcast is released, and a movie review for the much hyped Barbin star Go to Vista Del Mar. Mr. Martinez, how are you doing today?
Is it much hyped?
In my circle. I don't know about your circle.
I forgot you go to movie premieres. We
swim in different ponds here, you know.
Yes,
we're not in the same clique, as it were. Of course, I'm referring to my circle on film Twitter, man. I'm not anything special here. If only. And even if there aren't even any premieres these days, there's a global pandemic going on. So
that's true.
So,
what was your question? I'm alive.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You're alive. Before we start off with this show, we do want to address a pretty seismic event that happened in the world, that happened in our country. We don't anticipate to spend too much time talking on this. Of course, that is
allegations.
That is the hope, but that never seems to be what actually happens. Last summer, we addressed the BLM protests, Black Lives Matter protests, in response to the horrific murder of George Floyd. And this past week, it seems that we have reached a first conclusion in terms of the fate of Officer Derek Chauvin, who was the murderer here of George Floyd. And we have some startlingly good news to spread. Of course, all of you should know that Derek Chauvin, the officer who murdered George Floyd, was found guilty of all 3 counts this week. And I would, wager to say that most people kind of lost their breath at that, because that was unexpectedly a good outcome of what happened. And usually when it comes to these kind of cases where a young black man is viciously killed by a police officer or a white person with a gun of some sort, the result usually ends up being the cop walks away, and then there are riots in the streets, and then buildings are burned down, and that's kind of what the outcome everyone was expecting. And for that not to be the outcome for a change is good. It's refreshing. It's also something we're just not used to. And hopefully that the family of George Floyd can rest a little easier now that some real justice has been served here, in a land that so rarely grants it. Peter, your response to this conclusion of the George Floyd saga?
Yeah. I don't know. I know a lot of people were very, very satisfied with the verdict, and I, of course, justifiably so. But yeah, it's just a reminder that this situation, it's just rotten to its core, and the ways to fix it are long and difficult.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just racism, and I think a lot of people don't understand that. Like, as far as Derek Chauvin goes himself, was he racist? I don't know. This has to do with a much larger systems. Like, when people talk about systematic racism, this is the kind of thing they're talking about, where, historically, one of the biggest ones you can point to is like drugs, weed. Despite the fact that, white people smoke just as much weed as black people, Black communities are over policed and they're arrested like twice as much for weed, and they get convicted more, and that breaks up families, that breaks up households, that destroys communities, and it's this never-ending cycle. And then they're used as slave labor in the prison industry because slavery is abolished unless you're in prison. Read that 13th Amendment. And there's deep systematic issues that stretch far and wide, and this is just kind of a brief tiny little snapshot where a few of them sort of interconnect, and it becomes very visible to the wider population in a very visceral way that is easy to understand. It still just makes me sad, you know?
Of course, it's not an overwhelming victory. I mean, it's a brutal reminder of reality. But that doesn't mean we can appreciate the rare good news that we can get. And I think in this instance, for the jury to, you know, I think it was really unanimous. Like, I think the own police officer, the own sheriff of that station testified against Chauvin. So, like, it was pretty overwhelming from what I hear.
And I guess for me, verdicts like this, the best thing that comes out of them is it sends ripple waves that have other effects, such as, you know, a lot of conservatives are like, you know, cops are terrified. They should quit en masse, and they should do this and they should do that. And it's like, if
they should quit en masse, is that what they're saying?
Yeah.
Weren't they the ones that are supposedly against the defund the police, which of course it's a bad faith narrative to begin with, but hey.
Yeah. No, but I guess that's my point though. If you get these convictions, I do think it sends a message to cops, both the good and bad eggs, that this kind of stuff isn't going to be tolerated going forward.
It ain't going to fly.
You need to be better. And I do think to a large extent they are caught up in the same bullshit mechanisms as well, where they're not properly trained. I don't know if you saw that video going off around Twitter talking about how it was a video of this guy training police, and I guess, you know, he's booked year round to go around training police, and he's just fucking insane, talking about like, don't feel bad if you kill someone, you know, it's nothing, you know, you guys are warriors, and like, it's some crazy shit.
Damn.
Yeah. There's a lot of, again, institutions within everything that makes it difficult. I think, obviously this won't solve anything, but I think one of the biggest things you could do right now that would solve a lot of issues with police is just hiring the level of education needed to be a police officer. Education,
I think, in all areas could solve a lot of issues. Of course, I would argue, and I'll stand by this, if more of the public were educated, less of them would be conservatives. And
I mean, that's literally a fact, though. Like, we have the studies to show that.
Yeah, because, I mean, but can I list off some of the responses, actually, that have happened in this country in the last week in regards to this trial and, of course, the whole BLM movement?
When's the film coming out?
Oh, I don't know. That there's been no news.
Working on it.
Okay, everyone's no. Oh God, no! Please.
He's writing away right now.
Minnesota's Police Oversight Board voted Thursday to take a first step toward banning officers who affiliate with white supremacy groups and imposing limits on police responding to protests. This is encouraging, but yet it's also a reminder of, wait a minute, you're telling me that it was okay for you to be affiliated with white supremacy groups and still join the police force? Okay.
And again, like this, everything that I try to say anyway is usually backed up by what's the word? facts, I guess. I don't know. Evidence. But I believe like in 2005 or something, the FBI had put out a report. I don't know if it was
2002, 2003, earlier than that. The FBI put out a report
basically warning the infiltration of white supremacist groups into the police.
There was a big story last year in 2020 that our foreign intelligence, that was released by foreign intelligence, not, U.S. Affiliated, saying that the FBI knows, and it has known since the early 2000s, that, white supremacist groups, far right groups have infiltrated police force all over the country, law enforcement all over the country. And that isn't a surprise. It shouldn't be. But the fact that that's a reality and there's really nothing being said about it by anybody.
So no, like that I actually think is a really good law, is to crack down heavily on cops as far as any relation to. And
by the way, this police, this oversight board did this immediately after the verdict came in. So you can, that's already to show you how that verdict has created ripples, as you say.
Because I mean, it's also it's bad. Like for the people in these decision making, it's bad PR. They lose a shit ton of money fighting these cases. Like they of course don't want to go through this shit.
Of course not.
But that's why if you apply pressure, you apply a little people power, you can get change done.
And speaking of how this has affected national opinion, ABC News Politics released some new numbers from an ABC News Washington Journal poll today. And this is what it reads. Confidence that police are adequately trained to avoid using excessive force reaches a new low. While 60% of Americans say the country should do more to hold police accountable for mistreatment of black people. That's the first one. Then more that it says 63% say, the whole country, they say black people and other minorities do not receive equal treatment as whites in the criminal justice system, off its peak of 69% last July. So I guess it went down a little bit.
Probably.
But
obviously tensions were high once all that broke.
Yeah, but it's the next highest since 1988. And that includes a majority of white people for only the second time. Only the second time. That's interesting. 42% of the country says President Biden is doing too little to try and reform police practices. 32% say he's doing the right amount. So those are some figures to show where the national consensus is. President Biden's not going to do anything about the police. I hope everybody knows that.
That's the thing, though. Like, it's... Fuck, I don't know how deep I want to go with this.
Let's not get too deep. Let me see if I can summarize this. President Biden is an establishment Democrat, and the establishment Democrats are not interested in doing anything seismic reform-wise when it comes to the police because they're too afraid about how it will come off, and because they are, quite frankly, weaklings in the Department of Communication. The Republicans... They've convinced themselves that they've lost several seats in the last election in the House because of defund the police, even though none of the Democrats that actually lost were for defund the police. So I guess the answer is they're just, quite frankly, they're weaklings, and they're also ignorant about what the facts are. And so none of this will happen. The only way you will ever have any kind of meaningful reform when it comes to the police is to elect progressive Democrats up and down the ballot. Period. End of story. Nothing else will happen when it comes to the police until you do otherwise. And that's just the reality.
Yes. I was going to go in a slightly different direction, and I was going to say you need to... It's because... For the longest time, right, like specifically police officers and military are within American society are meant to be revered. So any criticisms for those institutions are immediately viewed as, anti-American, un-American, and one of the biggest issues with that is Democrats in this country are well, it's not Democrats, it's Republicans. Republicans in this country, they get to run politics on training wheels, right? Because they get to be 30% of this country's population and still win the presidency half the time, control the Senate, pick the most people on the Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. And Democrats need to win with the vast majority of voters just to be able to get close to actually winning. So that's why they're very timid to do anything, because they can't even play to their base the same way the Republicans do. So the only way you can really get any change is to change those systems. One of the biggest starts would be like adding statehood DC, which is in the news right now. Getting rid of the filibuster, like stuff like that. Like that's why I said I don't know how deep I want to go, because it's like it all goes back to like Republicans. Well, let me run see on training wheels.
Here's my frame of mind. Mm-hmm. What could be done is you could have legalized DC as a state. You could have picked up 2 additional seats for Democrats in the Senate. Mm-hmm. That would have given them 52. With Manchin and Sinema, who are 2 Democrats who call themselves Democrats but don't vote like Democrats, they vote with Republicans. You only have then 50 plus 1 VP with Harris.
But in order to get DC, votes. You have to get those 2 Democrats, quote unquote, to vote for it in the first
place. Which would mean them giving up their leverage. But if you were to somehow convince them, then you could get DC and then those senators, and then you would have enough to eliminate the filibuster. Mm-hmm. And even then, it's not going to happen. But you could do that, and then you can start doing these other things. But look,
that's the closest, though.
That's the closest you can do. But I feel it mostly is generational. Once the boomers are gone, maybe we can have some more realistic opportunities for reform. Like, for example, Joe Biden right now could just as easily eliminate all student debt. He's not. He hasn't. But he could. Yeah. But he won't. And you have to ask yourself why. Now, that's a lot of criticism for somebody that we asked you guys to vote for. Well, now we can comfortably do that without the risk at the moment of a demagogue destroying it all. But on that note, to remind you to not think for a second about how the other side conducts themselves. They also responded this past week. Quite horrifyingly, I would say, to what was going on with the whole BLM protests last summer in Florida and in other 5 states. From
the free speech advocates, by the way. I want to throw that out.
Right, from the free speech advocates, from the ones who always bitch about cancel culture. Well, apparently now they're canceling protests because in the state of Florida, they just signed a piece of legislation that quite literally makes it easier for anyone to run over protesters with your cars. They qualify a riot as a group of 3 or more people and enhances protections if you so wanted to run over a group of protesters with your car. So by my logic, if I wanted to, if there were some anti-masker protesters in Florida, I could hit them with my car, and according to the law, that could protect me. Of course, that isn't their intent. Their intent is to dissuade BLM protests because, of course, they would. So you have to also keep in mind how these 2 different political parties respond. One, in my view, is so authoritarian, it borderlines on treason for me because, look, they literally stole ISIS's main force of execution. Recall a few years ago when ISIS switched from they switched from beheadings to literally getting in vans and running people over all across Europe. That was their main strategy of how they would function as a terrorist organization. And now what Republicans across the country are saying, if you as Americans wanted to run over other Americans who are practicing their First Amendment right of peaceful protest, if you wanted to run them over, by all means, go ahead and do that. It is evil. That's just plain evil. And that's another reminder why you can't let them ever get into power.
Yeah. No, I will take any limp, whatever, pussy ass fucking Democrat over a Republican any day. Okay, I will. Let me tell you something. If in 2024 Hillary's like, I'm doing it, it's my time to shine, I'm going for it. All right. You know, it's gonna happen this time. I can feel it. And she's that crazy motherfucker somehow ends up winning the nomination. I'm gonna be here begging you to vote for her. Now, of course, I hope that doesn't happen. But if it does, like, fuck, you know.
Mm-hmm.
In all reality, I'm probably gonna be here asking you to vote for Kamala. The top cop, RoboCop.
Yeah,
Cop Mala. I like that.
Cop Mala. Oh my goodness.
It's similar to MCU. I don't know.
That's funny. MCU. That is hilarious.
Man. I like saying them just because I think they're just funny. Not even strictly that they mean anything. I just think they're funny.
Yeah. I mean, we have to hold on to whatever humor we can get. So that's all for that this week. But I did want to take time to acknowledge what happened because we spent so much time discussing all of the outrage when it first sparked last summer. And here we are at a preliminary conclusion, at least when it comes to the family of George Floyd and the fate of Derek Chauvin, who murdered him. And now it comes to see where the movement goes next for justice all around the country. So there we are with that. Let's get into some small news, some quick stories. This is kind of loosely related, but this is just hilarious and also kind of shows you, I think, why I'm speaking to a generational change that needs to happen. And what I'm saying is real change will happen once the baton is firmly passed down from the boomers, because it was revealed this week that in an email, the former president of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, by the way, that's the group that hands out the Golden Globes, called Black Lives Matter a racist hate movement.
That's not surprising.
No. By the way, this is again a reminder. This is the same group who's getting flack this season for having not a single black member in its entire organization.
It's funny how people be like, communist Hollywood. Like, Hollywood is filled with rich capitalists that enjoy, reveling in their overabundance of wealth. Like, I just always think it's funny when people are like, communist, socialist Hollywood. It's not surprising to me, yeah.
No, not in the least. So there was that. There was also some wonderful rumors that were going around this week and last week. I had shared some of these with Peter, and we got a good laugh out of it, but also a little bit of an interesting reaction that it caused in regards to Ryan Johnson. I don't know where this originated from, but it's been going around that there were some rumors that perhaps... or he had expressed interest in...
Yeah, he himself said, like, yeah, I'd love to direct
an episode of The Mandalorian. Mm-hmm. And that... I think what was more interesting about that was the response that it got from some people.
It was always going to be the response.
And to me, it was entertaining, but it was also kind of infuriating, the points that people brought up, because the consensus seemed to be... annoyingly so, is why would Disney want to take a success like The Mandalorian and have it be tarnished by having the director of The Last Jedi be involved in this? That's what the consensus I got from some people, and as I, who find The Last Jedi to be the best Star Wars movie besides Empire Strikes Back, find that argument to be disgusting on its face. Also kind of nonsensical, the fact that most of them harped on his writing as what could not be allowed. And not
probably
just
one of the best thing about Ryan Johnson is his writing.
it is that,
At
but
least to me.
But I think what makes me more nauseated as a result of these particular arguments is that they act as if the writing on The Mandalorian to begin with is like the gold standard of prestige television, and quite frankly, to me it is kind of the most mediocre television shows as far as genre television is concerned that I have ever seen in my life.
The writing isn't bad only because it never attempts anything, so it never even has an opportunity to be bad.
It's bad when it comes to some of those Boba Fett things.
Oh, but that's more of like a personal... I don't even know if it's writing, because it's like a... I've said this so many times. The writing is literally
they
just
stole
like
the ending of Mandalorian
game.
Season 2 from Robot Chicken. I don't know how lower you can get than that. Don't forget that.
But the writing to me is literally just like a video game side quest.
It's not really a writing to me.
Yeah, it's the most barest of bare bones structure. Just enough to go like, this character goes here to accomplish this. And then that's it, right?
Right.
So yeah, I don't know, like when people complain, and like what would he even do? Like he'd come in one episode and just kill Din Djarin and then hand it back to Jon Favreau like, okay, continue your Mandalorian show, fucker. Like he can't do that. He's not gonna do that.
No.
I don't know. I don't know what they think. He's gonna turn Ahsoka Tano into a Mary Sue. As if she's ever lost a fight. I don't know.
Yeah. I honestly don't know. I am a fan of Ryan Johnson, clearly. I don't know if I would want him to direct an episode of The Mandalorian, only because I don't need... I think it's quite frankly, it's well beneath him. It's well beneath him.
I don't care.
Yeah.
I mean, if he wants to do it, and if it makes, Jon Favreau and Filoni, I'm sure they're all cool with each other.
What would be hilarious is if he does direct it and it'd be the best episode of the whole show. That would be hilarious. But, which could be possible.
Know. I mean, every time he's directed television, it's been pretty darn good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. The second I would like, much like this whole story, I would love to see it just for the reactions.
Yes.
Because they're funny. At this point, they just entertain me.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's also, some of the arguments that I saw this week about Lucasfilm should not consider having Ryan Johnson back because of fan reaction. I hate that argument. I just do.
I hate this whole thing of like, we have to like run literally every single little thing we do by the fans.
Yeah.
It's really weird. I don't know. I don't like it. We've talked about it before.
Yeah, so there is that. I do want to remind everyone that there was a lot of Marvel news that did break this week, but if you want to listen to that, David Francisco and I discussed that at length on our weekly installment of the Falcon and Winter Soldier recap. So in regards to the casting of Secret Invasion, as well as the news with the Spider-Verse sequel, all of that you can listen to it at length. The first full hour, and the timestamps are included on there if you want to curate what you want to listen to on the previous episode, which was episode 316. But to give Peter a chance, did you have anything you wanted to say about what you thought of Shang-Chi, the trailer that came out this week?
It looked a little too political. I don't like how Marvel's ruining, Disney as a whole, really just ruining their brand by becoming so darn political. It's these communist CEOs that are controlling the world. No, Shang-Chi looked cool. And fuck, oh god, I have a spicy opinion, and I kind of don't want to say it.
This is your time. Say your piece.
Well, it's because it feels kind of bad to compare the two.
Black Panther?
God damn it. Yeah.
Yeah, because I saw it too. And I mean, I don't know if it, I mean, I don't know if it feels bad to do that. I saw other people who were comparing it to Black Panther, but it felt very much like Black Panther in the sense that you have the society.
Guess my thing is, like, it feels like what I wanted out of Black Panther.
I mean, our feelings of Black Panther are not exactly secret. For those of you who are not aware, who have been listening that long, you may have noticed that we have some very hot takes that go against the grain. We just trashed Mandalorian.
We're special, we're unique, we're snowflakes.
I suspect that those of you who listen love The Mandalorian, and God bless you for that. Good for you. But similarly to that, we also have some very substantial issues with the film Black Panther. And we've discussed that at length. I even said, I think last week, or maybe it was actually this week when I was talking about Falcon and Winter Soldier, that I feel that its whole discussion on race is far superior than Black Panther, at least for me. And I think it resonates stronger than it does in Black Panther. Not to take anything away from how special that film was to its intended audience and the theatrical experience, by all means. I'm not taking that away. I'm just saying that for me, for the record, that there was a lot to be desired in that film. But you are saying here that what you saw in this trailer for Shang-Chi is what you wanted that film Black Panther to be, but wasn't for you. What about this trailer makes you say that specifically? Because I'm really curious about that. It looked exactly like Black Panther to me in what it was going for.
What it was going for, yeah. It's kind of like this secret other society that's very sort of similar to Black Panther. Like Black Panther was very African centric, secrets, just the whole secret society thing going on with seemingly its own mythology. And it seems like it's the same thing with Shang-Chi. This whole, they're like very Asian centric secret society going on. So yeah, the reason why I say that is because I wanted Black Panther to ride a giant Black Panther, and he didn't. And here they have big fuzzy animals to ride, and in that alone, I'm like, okay, you have my attention. Because Black Panther never fulfilled that request from me. I wanted him to ride a fucking big ass Black Panther, but no. But no, just overall, the action looks really good. I thought the action in Black Panther wasn't great.
I can't recall anything really.
Yeah, but here, like the martial arts stuff, even though it's only a glimpse, it looks really good. It looks very clean, looks impactful. And the mythical stuff looks very, very interesting. And yeah, that's kind of the thing that makes me go, this, I think I might enjoy this more. Because if you're going for straight up this like mythical, kung fu. Oh yeah, kung fu, I guess. Martial arts. This mythical martial arts film, I was digging the mythical aspects of it, and I was digging the martial arts aspects of it. So it's like, okay, this is the angle you're going for. I like it. And yeah. And the only similarities is that it's kind of does the same thing for Asian culture within this superhero genre that Black Panther did for African culture and stuff like that. And I guess my question is, when's that gonna happen for a Mexican hero? I want a blatantly Mexican superhero, and they find an ancient Mexican culture, and the cast is 99% Mexican. I don't know the hero.
Well, he's not Mexican, but aren't there the rumors out there that Oscar Isaac is doing Moon Knight? But that's Disney Plus. That's not a movie.
Egyptian.
Oscar Isaac, I think, was
we have
a rumor.
Secret African societies. We have secret Asian societies. I want a secret Mexican society. Okay.
Can Mexicans even keep secrets?
I mean, In the MCU, they will be. Okay.
I say that as a Mexican, in case anyone's wondering. I happen to be one.
100% white.
That's Kyle.
You as well. That's what I want. I want my Mexican secret society. I don't think that's too much to ask.
Yeah. My expectations. Look, I look forward to any Marvel movie. They're generally a good time at a theater, and for us who have been deprived of the theatrical experience this past year, I'm more than ready for some really big movies. My expectations for just about every Marvel movie, aside from Eternals, I expect more from Eternals because of how much hype it's been getting. But for the rest of them, I have very low expectations about those movies, and I think that'll favor me in the end. Hopefully, I'll enjoy them more. But I have very low expectations because I have yet to see if they can move beyond what we normally see with as far as the generic MCU movie with those are concerned. Now, the Disney Plus shows, those, I think that's where it's at for me, based on how these last two have turned out.
Similar to Star Wars, right?
Oh, no. There's nothing in Star Wars I look forward to nowadays. There's nothing left.
It's dead on both fronts for me, so I don't care.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. Because it's interesting. Because we're going to have Black Widow, and Black Widow looks cool, but it very much feels like a generic Marvel movie. Mm-hmm. The same template. And
I mean, I would argue Shang-Chi looks like, I mean, we just said Black Panther.
For sure, right? But again, I didn't say the template was anything that interested me. It was the martial arts and the the mystical stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's the part that I'm like, cool, because you don't really see that. The martial arts movies just aren't the big blockbusters that they used to be, and that mystical stuff doesn't really get in there either. So to see both of that in a big Hollywood movie, I think that's cool, and I really like to see that. But yeah, I'm really holding out hope for the movies because I agree the shows, and we both know I had zero confidence in the shows.
All of us. Wasn't just you. Sure. It was me. It was David. We all have admitted we had very low expectations. We were quite frankly worried about the quality of what those shows would be. But things have completely flipped on their head, haven't they? We're far more excited about those shows than we are about the films.
I was annoyed about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and it's like, okay, another one of these. Great. And I feel very differently now that I've seen the whole thing, you know? It's very much been a 180 for me, to the point now where it's like, I know everyone's like, Black Widow, I gotta see the Black Widow movie, and I'm like, that's gonna be cool, but what about Loki, right? Like, I'm really excited to see Miss Marvel. I've been reading the comics. The comics are really good for Miss Marvel. They really they speak to the Gen Z in me.
He identifies as Gen Z. He was born in 96. I should say that.
Because I am Gen Z, okay?
Sure.
Fuck you. I hit the cutoff date. You goddamn millennial.
Everybody has their own different definition about what the cutoff date is. If you count 95, I'm in there with you as well. So
most people don't.
Some do. Okay. So there we are.
This is embarrassing for you, Grandpa, but okay.
Sure, okay.
But yeah, no, the shows I'm actually really, really looking forward to. Yeah. And I've been very critical of Marvel, but I think this is the reason why Marvel is still running strong. Even me, who's one of the most critical out there, while everyone was crying in the aisles over Endgame, I was going, worst Avengers movie.
I still can't believe that, and I'm sure that there are conversations where you and I are fighting over that. But
yes,
just in case everyone who's listening right now, I'm not with him there. Okay, I'm with you in that regard.
You're disavowing.
I'm disavowing. I disavow that completely. No, I can't get on board with you because I was crying. So clearly I can't get on that train with you. So,
but just if no one's heard, like I'm clearly very critical of these films, despite me really loving superhero movies. So for even me, who was just like, I'm done with Marvel, I don't care. I care a lot right now.
Yeah.
Very, very much. And I'm looking forward to a lot of stuff. I think that says a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, again, Shang-Chi is another one. Like, I don't know what the fuck Shang-Chi is. I never heard of Shang-Chi before. He's like a Marvel fucking D-lister. They created him in the 70s during the Bruce Lee boom. They're just like, hey, we want our own Bruce Lee, so they created Shang-Chi. And now I'm like, hey, fucking Shang-Chi. Or Shang-Chi. I think it's Shang-Chi.
It's Shang-Chi, yeah.
Yeah, fucking Shang-Chi. Let's do this. So yeah, it's positive.
Great. What did you make of the trailer for The Conjuring 3?
It's a Conjuring movie.
Yeah.
I have a very, very soft place in my heart for the Conjuring movie, Conjuring universe movies, and just in general, those types of horror films. I think the only truly great ones of those were the first two Conjuring films, and then like the first Insidious. The rest are what they are, but I sure as hell enjoy watching them. They're so much fun to me. They're like,
right, yeah.
Again, it's like these fun spook house. It's, to me, watching them feels like going through a haunted house.
Sure.
You know? You're fun. You're like, like a
Halloween
really
Horror
scared,
Nights.
but yeah. It's fun. So I don't think I can judge them properly. Or you know what? Fuck it. I'm entertained. That's all you need to know. Yeah. It looks like another one, and I'll sure as hell be there to watch it.
Of course, we'll talk about it when it comes out. HBO Max
is dead.
Yeah. They had a presentation this week, and they revealed that there was an addition of 2.7 million subscribers made to their combined streaming services. Now, they're doing this really obvious trick here because they're not revealing how many individual subscribers HBO Max has. They're choosing to combine the HBO Max service with the regular HBO service to kind of like, make the numbers prettier. Yeah, so they say that HBO Max with HBO has a combined 44.2 million subscribers here in the US. This is kind of terrible. They've had some pretty big movies, this whole hullabaloo about releasing their theatrical calendar on HBO Max alongside theaters. And this is what they have to show for it in the first quarter, only 2.7 million subscribers. And that's not even for HBO Max. That's combined with HBO Max and HBO. When they've had, Tom and Jerry, Judas, Little Things, Godzilla, and Justice League, and Wonder Woman. I kind of feel that perhaps I was kind of right to suspect back in December when this was announced, when I was kind of the only one saying, is this going to work? Are people really going to subscribe to a streaming service based on just these movies? And maybe for the individual films, but will that really make them stay? And I think the big problem with HBO Max, and it has been the biggest problem since they debuted about a year ago, is they don't have a signature series. And I think really when it comes to your streaming service, you need, like Disney Plus has The Mandalorian, Amazon Prime has The Boys, Netflix has Stranger Things. HBO Max has The Flight Attendant?
Is that a show?
That's a show, yeah, but it's a critic show. It's a comedy series, but they have no big show like that, and it's been a year. And I think for me, though, there is much more value, I feel, in your television series than your films. If you're a streaming service, you need to have something big to hook people and to make them stay. The films, I think at this point, they're not cutting it. Am I wrong here, or how do you feel these numbers are like to you?
Actually, I'm not as negative as you. 44 million total. Not great, but those are domestic numbers. What's the domestic numbers for Disney Plus?
They don't reveal that information.
You don't know.
To you. Yeah.
Exactly. The total. What's the total though?
And we also don't even know the number of total subscribers for HBO Max. That's just with HBO Max combined with HBO, which means they're still having a hard time getting people who are subscribed to HBO to activate their accounts with HBO Max. I feel like they've really dug themselves into a hole here. Why not just kill the HBO app and then just do it for them? Switch them to HBO Max. How hard is that to do?
Because HBO makes a lot of money.
Is HBO, I think HBO is actually cheaper by itself, right? Or is it the same price?
It costs the exact same. Yeah.
I don't get
makes
this.
no sense why
what is this problem? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So, but another thing is HBO Max is much more expensive than the rest of the streaming services.
It is the most expensive service.
Yeah. It's $15, right? And I don't know what Disney Plus is at right
it's
now.
Like $7? $7 or $8. Yeah, $7 or $8.
So HBO Max costs twice as much as Disney Plus. And I don't know what's Netflix at, like $10?
13, 14, 15.
13. It's pretty high, but it's taken many years. It's imbued itself into the human, not the human, fucking
Zeitgeist,
yeah. These numbers aren't great, but I also don't think they're the worst. But at the end of the day, yeah, you need something like with these Disney Plus. Think about it, right? You had the WandaVision show, which was like 9 weeks, or no, it was like 6.
It was 8 weeks.
8 weeks, okay. And you had to remain subscribed because you really wanted to see that show and you wanted to be a part of the conversation. Yeah. So you wanted to watch it the second it dropped. And then you wanted to, I don't know, talk about it on Twitter, look at theories on YouTube, So you remain subscribed. And then right after, you got Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Same thing, right? With these movies, you can go to the movie theater. In a lot of these films, people actually prefer to see it in a movie theater. It might, and depending on where you live, it might be cheaper to just go to the movie theater if you're paying $15 to because there's no free trial and shit like that to do that. But if you have an HBO Max show, that changes things. Again, that's why HBO, despite costing the same amount, is so successful. It's because it had Game of Thrones, it had The Wire, it had The Sopranos. People wanted to watch it week to week. They wanted to be part of the zeitgeist conversation going on, talks around the water cooler, shit like that. The biggest mistake they made with HBO Max, despite calling it
there were several mistakes
calling it HBO Max, because if you really don't want to confuse people, then don't call them both HBO. You should have called it something else. It was really stupid on their part. But the biggest thing is just not having a show, like investing in a big hit show, presumably connected to a franchise that people are pretty big on. Will be the first interesting test of this, because I think it's the first show that'll actually do this, is the Peacekeeper or Peacemaker. Show. Because that's big, right? Like, when that movie comes out, everyone really wants to see it. It's a big comic book movie. The Suicide Squad, I mean. And then people are going to watch it. They're going to be like, oh, presumably it's good and people really enjoy it. And they enjoy everything with John Cena and Peacemaker. And they're like, okay, yes, now we're going to see the show. And let's see if you have something similar to WandaVision, similar to Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where people are captured by it. They release it week to week. You know, they stay up late with their HBO Max on. That, I think, will be the biggest test. But no, they need to be greenlighting shows. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and move on to another story here. Netflix. They are apparently going to be spending $17 billion this year when it comes to creating new content. From Slash Film, Netflix's infinite well of money does not look like it's drying up anytime soon. The streaming giant has revealed that it plans to spend a whopping $17 billion on content this year, which, suffice to say, it's a lot of money. That's a major uptick from the streamer's 2020 spending of $11.7 billion and a 2019 content spend of $13.9 billion. Look, we should also remind people that Netflix is far and away leading the pack when it comes to the number of subscribers these streamers have. I know a lot of people who cover the same space that we do like to say that Disney Plus is nipping at their heels, and perhaps to an extent that's the case, sure, but they still have like over 100 million subscribers less than Netflix. But it's still leading the pack, and it's still creating the most content. It has the most subscribers. I feel like a lot of people are trying to paint Netflix these days as an underdog. Nielsen's streaming ratings regularly have, like, of the top 10 shows streamed in any given week, 8 or 9.
It's all Netflix.
It's all Netflix. So I don't get this, like, this narrative out there that Netflix is, like, fighting for space now. They're leading the pack by a lot. And it's because of decisions like these. They're not taking anything for granted. They know the risks now. I mean, they have really, if they've played this well from the very beginning, when all of these former partners stab them in the back to create their own streaming service, they need to stay in the game. And like we mentioned last week, the last couple of weeks with these big deals with Knives Out, they have now it's not just their television series, but they're now really investing into their film series. They have franchises now, with Knives Out. And of course with Sony and getting some exclusive back deals there as well. So it's aggressive spending on their part, but quite frankly, it's necessary. And I think their longevity is kind of proof as to why they need to. They can't be complacent. I don't think it'll get to a point relatively soon-ish that Netflix will be dethroned. I just can't see it. But that's just me. What about you, Peter?
No, I don't think anytime soon. It didn't happen overnight, right? But they're definitely top dog when it comes to streaming. But the reason I think they're spending so much is because they know they can be dethroned with time. Right? Sure. Because HBO Max, they're the embodiment of why Blockbuster Home Video went out of business.
Yes. And that could happen to them one day. Mm-hmm.
But it's mostly because Disney Plus, they're doing streaming on easy mode, right? Because they come in with a million movies that people literally grew up with. They have this crazy attachment to, and they can just do remixes on literally all of that for the end of time, and people will fucking sign up and watch it. And over time, they will have a lot of content. They will have a lot of original content. They don't have it now, but give them time. And the same goes for HBO Max. I really think HBO Max will become, I don't know, not huge, but it will grow. It will become big. They have the content. They have the ability to make the content that will make people interested. And Netflix knows this. And Netflix doesn't have anything. Not really. It's pretty interesting. Like when you think of like, okay, what does Netflix have? Stranger Things? Stranger Things is ending, you know?
Not yet.
One more season.
No.
Is it still 2?
They said, remember we had this discussion that they're thinking they're looking seriously at season 5. So
they're old as fuck now. I don't care. They waited too long. But after that, like, what do they have? Like year to year, I know Netflix has a lot of things that I like and I'm interested. Sure. You know, they'll have movies, they'll have this, they'll have that, but they don't have like these big namessays, right? These franchises where people go like, I can never unsubscribe because I need this. I don't know if Netflix has that. So the reason why they throw a bajillion dollars at the wall is because they're constantly looking for that.
But, right. I mean, they don't have franchises, but they still have huge hits that aren't Stranger Things. There's The Queen's Gambit, there's Bridgerton, and there's The Crown.
Yes. They do have those. But once those are over,
yeah,
it's over.
It's over, yeah. But I think when it comes to those shows that I mentioned, they kind of cater to a different audience than I think all the other streamers are concerned.
That's the thing, though, right? Like, those shows cater to very specific audiences.
Yes.
While Marvel's shows cater to everyone.
Sure.
They have franchises that people of every age will want to see. And Netflix is doing something very different where they have shows.
They were going to have one, but then it blew up with the Last Airbender.
Yeah, that was maybe the dumbest, stupidest thing that Netflix did. I can't believe they let... That would have been a legit cash cow for them, and they let that slip through their fingers. Yeah. Those dumb fucking morons.
And it's still happening, but I think the excitement for that
is completely drained. It's gone.
Fallen off a cliff.
But yeah, but that's what I mean, right? Like, Stranger Things was that show where everyone was into it, but then when it's over, it's over. There's no Stranger Things franchise, although maybe they might try and do something with that. You know, Bridgerton, of course. You know, Bridgerton. A lot of people love Bridgerton. It's a very specific show for specific people, and then once it's done, I imagine that's it. Same with The Queen's Gambit. Same with a lot of these, right? So every year they're constantly chasing that new big thing, and they have no idea what it's going to be. I don't think anyone would have guessed that Stranger Things would pop off the way it did, or even The Queen's Gambit the way it did. They just look at things and they go like, well, people like this, people like that, people like this. Let's throw money at these kinds of projects, and we're hoping, you know, we can find a diamond in the rough.
Yeah.
And guess what? When you spend $17 billion, you do find a couple diamonds. But you also have to spend $17 billion. So my advice to them, at least from a business sense, they need franchises.
Which, I mean, look, as far as the film side is concerned, I mean, they're doing that with Knives Out. They're doing that, I think, with the Russos, right? Didn't they announce a big franchise with them? This big $200 million feature with Evans and Gosling and a whole bunch of other people.
Did they now?
Yeah. And then the Extraction movie that you saw last year with Hemsworth,
yeah, that one was neat.
That's getting a franchise. They're getting a sequel to that one too. So they're trying. They're going for that. So Sony is They're a little sneaky, aren't they? But man, are they profiting off of this streaming war business here? This wonderful story here from, I believe it's Deadline. Disney sets massive movie deal with Sony Pictures, bringing more Marvel to Disney Plus. Although that's not really the story here because it's kind of a little misleading. But I think the headline here is what Sony is up to. This wide-ranging deal, which runs through Sony's 2026 theatrical slate, also calls for Sony titles to run across Disney's array of streaming and linear platforms, making it unprecedented in the scope as it covers Disney Plus, Hulu, FX Networks, ABC, Disney Channels, and Freeform. It also includes a significant number of library titles that will be spread among various outlets. Hulu will gain access to what Disney described as a significant number of library titles starting in June. I believe that's June of this year. The agreement comes on the heels of Sony's output deal with Netflix for titles in the lucrative post-theatrical release Pay One window. The Disney deal covers subsequent TV windows, meaning that the titles will land on Netflix first, about 9 months after the start of a film's theatrical run. Disney is scooping up for multiple platforms the windows previously reserved for ad-supported cable and broadcast airing of movies. The Netflix and Disney deals also run for the same license term. So what does all of this mean? That's a lot of jargon, mumbo-jumbo. So what does this really mean here? It means that a new movie coming out of Sony Pictures, starting I think with 2020, either this year or next year, I can't really recall which year it was. But how it's going to be is, let's say for Spider-Man 3, for example, because that's a big Sony movie, the biggest Sony movie coming out this year. It means it will have its run in theaters. And then once it's completed its run in theaters, it's going to go to premium video on demand, PVOD, for purchase and for rent. And that in and of itself is like 1, 2, or 3 months. Then after that's done, it's going to go to Netflix for, I believe, approximately 4 to 6 months, maybe even longer. I'm not sure about that. And once it's finished its run on Netflix, it then will go to Disney Plus. So what Sony has masterfully done here is they've done some double dipping under the table, as it were, because they're now catering to all of these streamers and saying, you want our content? Get in line. Because first it's going to go to Netflix, then Disney Plus. Maybe it'll go to other streamers. We'll see how much money they've made. But so far...
Hey, Paramount, you want our sloppy thirds?
Sure. With Netflix and Disney deals combined, Sony is expected to rake in about $3 billion in movie licensing over the life of just these deals. And there will be more to come. Sony's decision to stay out of the streaming wars is already bringing in much faster profits than I think all of the other studios for the expenses that they've made in creating these streamers. Peter, what do you think of all of this?
Good for them. I don't think a Sony streaming service would have worked. I'm glad they didn't even try it. And they're getting paid.
It's payday.
Yeah, fucking payday. You love your Spider-Man so much, you're gonna fucking pay to see him, okay? Yeah.
One thing I want to add here, a little bit of a stipulation. Based on how I have seen others cover this story, and what they say and what it suggests is, as far as the library content of Sony, it was my impression that Netflix was going to get that library content, but it just seems like they're getting the new releases. Mm-hmm. As far as the library content, since it says that this June, as early as this June, Disney's going to have access to it, you could see all of the old Spider-Man movies actually come to Disney Plus this June.
I could see them doing that because they want to do it, coincide it with Spider-Man Far From Home, right?
Right. Oh, the No Way Home.
No Way Home, sorry. Some Way Home. Going Home. Whichever home.
Yeah.
such a stupid thing.
It is.
With those movies. They have to include the word home. Like, it has literally nothing. It means whatever. I don't like names anyway. Yeah. Good for them. I'm just glad there's not another company trying to compete in the streaming wars. There's too many as it is. And they're getting paid. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Was Fox not enough? Now they need Sony's movies?
Well, I mean, they still don't even utilize a lot of their titles in the US anyway. So, I mean, they're doing that now. They've dipped their toes this year internationally with the launch of the Star window on the Disney Plus. But as far as those library titles, either they're on Hulu or they're not anywhere to be had.
Yeah. I like Hulu. Don't get rid of Hulu.
So let's move on to Cinema Week. A broad coalition of theater owners are staging Cinema Week, a 6-day event in June designed to re-energize moviegoing as the film business emerges from the COVID-19 pandemic. Thousands of cinemas across the country will showcase exclusive content, offer exclusive merchandise, and arrange for special guests, including filmmakers and talent. The event runs June 22nd through the 27th. Cinema Week has support from the Independent Cinema Alliance, National Association of Theater Owners, dozens of cinemas, and numerous sponsors including Atom Tickets, more than 28,000 screens belonging to mega exhibitors AMC, Regal, and Cinemark. Regional circuits and independent chains will participate. You want details about what this actually means? I've got none. They've announced nothing as far as the particulars about these filmmakers or talent or merchandise. There's none of that has been announced as of yet, but this is a big thing that they're going to be staging. Peter, what do you make of this?
I mean, are you interested in it?
I would like to know what they're offering, but I'm all for the idea of, these different forces in this industry banding together to remind the world that, hey, we matter, we exist, please.
We need money.
We need money. Come and support us. As somebody who is a regular film goer was before this pandemic happened, I am interested in seeing something like this being high profile and actually succeeding. What it will amount to, probably nothing. But I'm always up for exclusive merchandise. I'm always up for going to the movies. So,
as a film lover, I would love to. I imagine it would be like older movies, classic movies. It would be or like big movies that everyone knows about, right? Maybe not even recent movies, right? Just like during when they first tried to open the movie theaters and they're like, we're showing The Empire Strikes Back and Avatar and the original Avengers and I don't fucking know, The Matrix, like all these kinds of films. And yeah, like whatever. I like getting the cups. I think
I love that too. Yep. Popcorn buckets, I got plenty of them.
Yeah, you love the popcorn buckets. So it's like I would enjoy it. I would throw money at this. Yeah. But we live in the middle of fucking nowhere, so it's not going to come here. So
well, if they have anything in San Diego, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to taking a trip. Lord knows we all need it. Will we have the time for it? Probably not. But hey, there is that.
Even in the pandemic, ain't that a bitch?
Yeah.
But no, it's neat. But I would, of course, like to know more details.
Yeah, and there are none at the moment. So that'll be nice. We will update you as to what those details are whenever they announce anything. But June 22nd to the 27th is what they have agreed on. So let's move on to our final thoughts and predictions for what will take place at the Academy Awards, which is taking place tonight as of the date of this recording, which would be Sunday, April 25th. I have written down some expectations or predictions, if you will, of how things may fare down. Overall,
So
though,
wait.
yes,
It airs the 25th?
it does.
That's like in 2 days.
It's airing as we speak, basically the day that this episode drops. Yes, Sunday, April 25th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm not surprised you don't know about it because most people don't know that's happening. Most people don't even care. And I think with good reason, but it's, yeah. It will for sure be the least watched ceremony in history. Not just for like gradual decline
Until
of,
next
like,
year.
Until next year, that's for sure. But there's just no interest in this year's awards, which I think is kind of a shame because I think this crop of nominees happens to be, I think, some of the best we've ever had, at least from my perspective. Even something when it comes to Trial, I enjoyed that movie. I didn't hate it, but we have our issues with it, obviously. But in normal years, there are a list of movies that includes names that are kind of a groan, you know, like, why are you here? Like, what is up with this? And so in this case, there really isn't a movie in this list that I despised outwardly. So there is some progress, and I think there is some real talent involved here. But yeah, but it hasn't been really generating much discussion. I'm going to go over some of what, let's start off with the big ones, right? We have picture and we have director. We've been saying for a long time, as have most people, and I think I'm still saying Nomadland for both of those awards. I think Nomadland's far out in front for both picture and director. Director, I have no doubt that's going to be Chloe Zhao, Nomadland. With picture, there's only a slight chance Chicago could upset, if only because of some of the precursors. Nomadland has swept everything, except for the things that it wasn't nominated for. And the one thing that it wasn't nominated for was the ensemble category in the Screen Actors Guild. And it plagued Revenant, it plagued La La Land, and it plagued Roma. That those were all frontrunners that were sweeping guilds left and right, except that one pesky little nomination at the Screen Actors Guild where it was left off, and so was Nomadland. And so you could argue perhaps there's your hint at an upset happening. And let's face it, Chicago 7.
That's the ensemble.
It's the ensemble, but it's also your stereotypical Oscar bait film in just about every single way imaginable. So there's a chance, however unlikely, as Governor Tarkin would say. Well, not even Governor Tarkin, some other person on Star Wars said that line. But there's a chance an upset could happen. And I would contest for those of you who are looking to see, in terms of how the awards are presented, if Chicago 7 wins a couple of upsets like editing, cinematography, or screenplay, watch out. If it's getting nothing and Nomadland wins screenplay and editing, then you know which way it's going to go pretty early on based on those precursors. But it's one or the other. But Nomadland, I think, is out in front for the most part. Peter, any counterpoints to anything what I said? I think either way you win because you said your prediction was Chicago 7 initially, but then you changed to Nomadland, right? Or
yes,
yeah.
But I mean, that was because Nomadland came out.
Yeah.
That was before Nomad. So I still maintain I'm pretty accurate because the two front runners are Nomadland and the Chicago 7. So it's like the only thing that changed is that movie came out, and it's like, okay, well, now that it's out, readjust. No, I really like Nomadland, but Nomadland, like no one. That's funny enough, even though that's a movie about like regular. I don't even know about regular people, but like the commoners, I guess. Mm-hmm. I feel the people that give a shit about that film are like movie nerds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not that kind of film that people are like, oh yeah, I want to see it win at the. It's only if you're like really into film, or you're like, oh yeah, fuck yeah, Nomadland. And I think that's one of the reasons why this year isn't. No one kind of gives a shit. You know what I mean? Because in the past, you might have films that people are like really excited about, and people like on a general level, and people want to see like, oh, can it win? Da 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 da. But here, it's like they're all pretty niche films, like Trial of Chicago 7, Nomadland, and Everything Below. So yeah, for me personally, I want to see Nomadland win. And if it loses to Trial of Chicago 7, that's at least funny enough for me.
I'm curious, Peter, what you feel in terms of the ones that you have seen, and I think I've seen most of these, but not all of them. How would you would still vote for Nomadland? Is that your personal favorite movie of these 8 of the ones that you have seen? There's Nomadland, there's Judas and the Black Messiah, The Father, Sound of Metal, Minari, Mank, Promising Young Woman, and The Trial of Chicago 7. Mm-hmm. Would you say Nomadland is the one that you would vote for if you were an Academy Award member? And is that your favorite movie of that bunch?
Yeah, I believe so.
And which are the ones that you haven't seen?
Minari, Promising Young Woman,
The Father. Yeah, but the others you have seen.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's a pretty easy one. I think that Nomadland is kind of the one that you would go with. But yeah, I think there are some I prefer over others for sure. But yeah, that's kind of where we are. There's an interesting scenario bubbling up with Best Actor. Chadwick Boseman should technically win, and he will win because I never get my way. So that's your indicator right there. But Anthony Hopkins did win the BAFTA award, and I've been hearing from a lot of the places that I go and look at, like Gold Derby, that there's a consensus among some Oscar voters that, yeah, they know that Boseman's going to win, but they're going to vote for Anthony Hopkins because that was the performance that, moved them the most. And I can certainly speak as somebody who saw the performances of both Anthony Hopkins and Chadwick Boseman in those movies. I would vote for Anthony Hopkins because I happen to believe he gave the best performance. Now, not everybody votes that way, but
clearly.
Yeah, and since I kind of now declared that that's my favorite performance,
it won't happen.
It won't win because I never seem to get my way with this category. In fact, I usually hate whoever wins Best Actor in this category. It always just seems to be kind of in my view, kind of a dumpster fire. Joaquin Phoenix winning for The Joker, that set me off. Rami Malek winning for Bohemian Rhapsody, that set me off. And then the others are just kind of like generic. All right. I think the last one that was kind of deserved was maybe Matthew McConaughey. That was a while ago for Dallas Buyers Club. Mm-hmm. But generally speaking, I never get my way in this category. So bet on Boseman to win. Even though I think he should be celebrated. He's never going to get another chance. And so it's no reason to be upset. But like, Hopkins also delivered an amazing performance, and so there could be a chance. Very unlikely. Bet on Boseman. Any arguments?
The Academy's too political.
Well, everything's political. All they ever do is political.
The Academy.
Yeah.
But it's a stupid kind of politics.
Right.
That I just generally hate, and that's why I don't care.
Well, obviously, these things don't matter, but there are the Oscars, and we're covering them, so yeah. The one where it's interesting is Best Actress, but I think it's between Miss Viola Davis for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom and Carey Mulligan for Promising Young Woman. I was generally underwhelmed by Ma Rainey's Black Bottom in every respect, and as you can see, it did not get a Best Picture nomination, but there's a chance it could win 4 Oscars, including one for Lead Actor and Lead Actress. Viola Davis won the Screen Actors Guild, which is a good indicator. Mulligan won the Critics' Choice, which is not as solid as Screen Actors Guild. Generally, in this, you would go with the Best Picture nominee, right? Promising Young Woman over Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. So I think you could say that. But because I happen to feel passionately about Carey Mulligan, bet on me losing. Always bet on me losing. So go with Viola Davis, I would actually say. But that's kind of where we are with that one. Did you see any of these performances? I mean, you saw Frances McDormand, but she's not going to win because she just won recently. And then actress and actor for supporting are locked up. Daniel Kaluuya will win for Best Supporting Actor for Judas. Well deserved there. And then supporting actress is going to be YJ, Yoon Yoo-jung from Minari. And if that's the case, what could be possible that night is Kaluuya, Yoon Yoo-jung and Viola Davis and Chadwick Boseman, all actors of color, winning that night, which I don't recall that ever happening before, where all 4 Oscars for acting go to people of color, which is likely to happen. So there is that. And then quickly, other categories. Soul is going to win Best Animated Feature and Best Score. Sound of Metal is going to win Sound. Hey, go figure. I think Nomadland is a good... how can it not win Cinematography? That's such a beautiful film.
Right? That's really beautiful.
Chicago 7, I think, might get one for editing. Not because it has the best editing, but because it has the most editing.
Yeah.
It has the most editing. It has the most obvious editing. And let me remind you, Bohemian Rhapsody won for best editing a couple years back at the Academy Awards. So...
I don't know why people were so in love with that movie. Oh, man.
I know,
especially
right?
The Academy. That one should have won Best Picture. That would have been great.
That would have been hilarious, wouldn't it? But wasn't that the year Green Book won?
Yeah.
I would have rather Bohemian won than Green Book.
Yeah.
I think by a mile. And then the screenplays, those are always some of the most interesting ones. Aaron Sorkin has won in the past. He could win again for Chicago 7. He's that popular. But I would hope that Promising Young Woman amounts to some kind of a win. And if it's not going to be actress, it would be here for Emerald Fennell, who wrote the screenplay for that film. And then adapted screenplay, The Father could actually win there. A lot of people, that movie... unfortunately had not enough people watch that movie until the very end, but a lot of people are responding very well to it. And if it had debuted sooner, it could have been much more of a force this award season. But it's a great film. I saw it, but not everyone really has seen that movie. So, but it got a lot of nominations, and it could win something there. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at. So watch the Academy Awards or don't. We'll talk about them one way or the other as they happen, and we'll see what the results will be. Peter, let's get on to our next discussion topic, and this is going to be concerning I don't know what the title for this is. It concerns Lindsay Ellis, who is a video essayist, a video essay YouTuber.
She's a writer.
She's a writer. Oh, she's an author, an auteur.
Yes.
She's an author, Axiom's End. She's a very, very well-known individual in the film Twitter circles, if you will, in the film space. And she recently...
We know you run those spaces.
No, I don't. Believe me, I don't. She recently underwent a controversy of sorts after a tweet. And she released a nearly 2-hour response to what happened. She released
a feature-length film in response.
Basically. That concerns not just the tweet that she sent out, but also basically she was run off Twitter. She canceled her Twitter because of so much harassment she was getting from people that were claiming that she sent out a racist tweet. And so she used the video to respond to that, and a whole bunch of other issues that were brought up. Peter, I'm very curious to hear what you thought of this video, but perhaps before we get to the video, we should get to what spurred this on, because I recall you telling me a few weeks back about if I had heard about what had happened, and you told me about this tweet that she wrote, and then you told me the context in which this tweet was written, and then I was at a loss of words for why this was a controversy to begin with. So you want to catch us up what happened there?
Yeah. See, this is why I would never be able to be like anyone of importance, because poking at people brings me joy. I think it's very funny. But the
From
internet
personal experience, I can verify the validity of these claims by Peter Martinez.
The internet takes everything you do extremely seriously. So I don't think no, that would not suit me, that life. What was the tweet? Oh, the tweet, it was just something along the lines of like, there should be a name for films that are basically aping or just stories that are aping Avatar: The Last Airbender. And I think she even directly referenced like recent YA novels and stuff like that. In reference, because I assume she just saw Raya the Last Dragon, and she was just like, it was just like, just a thought in her head, like, oh yeah, like, obviously taking a lot from Avatar: The Last Airbender, and she noticed the trend, and she's just tweeted out, like, yeah, tweet that out. And then people got mad. And it's very funny, because I saw the mad stuff first. And I was like, okay, like, what did she say? Because it's so used to, like, you hear, like, people are mad at someone, and you're like, okay, what happened? Is it bad? Is it really bad? Is it dumb? Because it could, when you hear said person is canceled, it could be anything from, they raped 20 people, or, they sneezed wrong.
Or they licked the donut.
Yeah, they licked the donut. Oh, that's right. That happened with Ariana Grande. A lot of people would have bought that donut happily. So, where was I? So yeah, so then I genuinely didn't believe, because I was digging, you know, I'm like, okay, well, what did she actually say? Because you have people, they're like, in this 200-page tweet thread, I will explain why Lindsay Ellis deserves to die. And it's like, okay, you're mad at her. Like, what is it? And when I finally read her tweet that set people off, I didn't believe it. Yeah. I was like, no, it's not this. Like, maybe this was like the second part of it, but like, where's the original one? Like, what really kicked all this off? And then after a while, it's like, oh, I guess it was that? Okay. And I was just like, okay, you people, and I said it that night when we talked about it. I was like, yeah, that's crazy. Like, you people are getting mad at this. You really need to go outside, do something other than being on the internet, because this is insane to me that you would get mad at this and view it in any way racist. And then, yeah, then I was like, okay, this is dumb. And then I just walked away from it. Like, I stopped caring. And then I guess she released a video, and I knew what the video was going to be. Cause I've seen these types of videos before. She's friends with a YouTuber that released a similar type video. Do you know who the YouTuber is? ContraPoints? Do you know who that is? Okay. I think you'd like her videos.
Kind of, but not really though. I haven't seen her videos per se.
You need to watch them. They're really good. But she went through something similar, and she did a video like that, and it's like, yeah, I get this. So I didn't watch it, but then you're like, you better fucking watch it. You threatened me. I want to make that clear. You threatened my life.
I didn't say that. I said I strongly urged you to see it because I wanted to discuss the video.
Put a threat on my life. I felt threatened.
Okay, continue.
So I watched it, and now we are here to discuss it. So yeah, that's basically everything that happened leading up to then until now.
And what did you think of it?
Yeah, she's not wrong. I feel the same way. It really goes back to, oh, man, let's see. I don't want to sound mean.
I mean, at this point, there's been a lot of meanness going around, really.
But it's because, like, I'm someone, despite what you may believe, Mr. Soto, when it comes to these kind of things, it's like, okay, I genuinely, people do have very different realities, lives they live, experiences, backgrounds, and there's a lot of things, from 10 years ago, 5 years ago, hell, just last year, where it's like, I know my point of view has been changed by just opening my mind to the way this other person thinks and going like, I didn't think this was bad, but the way they explain it, I understand now, that kind of stuff. Right. There are those kinds of people. And then there are other kinds of people, I think, that weaponize this kind of stuff, and they're just kind of abusive. And it's just kind of this, I don't know, like policing for glory's sake, for
clout.
Yeah, it's like clout. It's to prove that you are the wokest woke individual that's ever been woken up in their lives, and you are just all understanding and all perfect. And it's kind of this thing of like, if you're able to demonstrate the way you are much, much woker than this other person that is considered woke, then that elevates your status even higher. It's this weird thing. But I will say, I feel like this phenomena isn't as big as people make it out to be. It's literally just a very small group that is always online that makes themselves appear to be big. And I think the best way is to just unapologetically tell these people, go fuck yourself.
Which is what she did.
Yeah. Yes. And I guess that can be hard to say that, right? Because sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between just the abusive assholes and the people that probably can open your mind to things that you haven't previously understood.
The ones who are not operating on bad faith.
Yeah, you never want to become closed-minded because of abusive assholes, right?
Yeah.
And that's tough, because especially if you're a public figure like her and you're bombarded with this shit and it's very disgusting, more than anything, you just want to close your mind and tell everyone to get fucked. But it's just not a good thing to do. In this instance, though, I think it's pretty black and white, cut and dry, and I would have no issue just telling these people get fucked. Like, go outside, live any sort of life other than what you're doing here online, because it's so unbelievably stupid. And yeah, of course, Lindsay Ellis, she's a really smart person, great writer, been doing this YouTube thing a long time. So despite it being a feature-length film, she was able to concisely bring that full narrative of what she was trying to say over the whole video together and make it entertaining and make sense. So yeah.
I thought that a video like this was long overdue in my view. These people needed to have a high profile person like her say to them, get fucked.
Yeah.
Because we usually, and she, I think maybe the most important part of her video is toward the end. She does say it is dangerous to just release apology videos and move on because it legitimizes their efforts.
Their abuse. Yeah.
Their abuse, basically. And that's not good for anybody. And yeah, it's like the idea that somebody as Lindsay Ellis would be somebody that needs to be canceled, however you define that, like, to me, these people are either they're operating on bad faith or they're just, naive beyond, I don't know, any kind of way you can imagine it, because it's like the cancel police, right? Like, and they even, in a lot of the tweets that she was saying, like, oh, Jenny Nicholson's next or this person's next. It's like,
it's
you
insane shit.
You people are just revealing that all you are is you're just trying to cancel people left and right. And I mean, it exposes what your agenda is.
It's not even canceling though, right? And I feel weird calling it canceling because, like, no one's really canceled, right? Like, Lindsay Ellis, she deleted her own Twitter. Like, she's fine. She probably got 1 billion views on that video. She's not really canceled. It's just like these abusive gangs of individuals that just throw abuse at people.
Yeah.
Because I think it makes them feel better. I don't know. And a lot of people will be like, well, you offended this or you offended that. You feeling offended doesn't mean you're right. And I think a lot of people don't realize that because, again, a good thing, we're trying more and more to not go out of our way to offend people. I don't think offending people is a good thing. But guess what? There is going to be times where you feel offended and it's honestly not warranted. Sorry. Just because you feel offended doesn't make you right. So, I would argue that it's not only the people that are maybe doing the offending that should take a step back and reevaluate the things, but the people that get offended should take a step back and go like, well, is this a big deal? Should I really be offended? And this, and that. But I think that's more for like normal people. I don't think these are normal people. I think these are just abusive assholes that have found a way to weaponize a good thing and make it a personal way to feel good about themselves by being abusive to others. I don't know.
Shit's crazy. I don't know. I thought it was perhaps the most nuanced discussion on this particular kind of culture there is on the internet. That it was very informative, and I would implore people to go out and watch it because I think it's not as if she's like holier than thou either. She never presents herself that way. She even lists out some of the things that were people complained about that weren't just this tweet, and she admitted wrongdoing in several areas. I think she comes across as a very authentic, honest person. And I feel like as far as the people who are going after her come across as monsters, in my view, And so while nearly 2 hours, I think she's a very engaging individual, and it really makes you think all around. I loved it, and I thought it was hilarious too. It just feels good to tell these people to shut up, In particular, the ones obviously that operate in bad faith and are just stupid. So, yeah, there is that. So with that aside, shall we get into this movie review? Peter, if you can get the Letterboxd description on your phone, that way we can inform our listeners of the synopsis for this film that was actually released in early February of 2021. And so Peter recently saw it. And now we're going to discuss it.
Barb and Star go to Vista Del Mar, directed by Josh Greenbaum. The friendship we all want, the vacation we all need. The story of best friends Barb and Star who leave their small Midwestern town for the first time to go on a vacation in Vista Del Mar, Florida, where they soon find themselves tangled up in adventure, love, and a villain's evil plot to kill everyone in town. And I see here you have admitted to watching the film on your Letterboxd.
Mm-hmm. I have. This film brought me such joy. I saw it twice back when it was released in February. I think to me this film is the definition of delightful, just delightful. And it has what this movie is. Think of the film we talked about last year, Eurovision, only actually good. Because although I enjoyed Eurovision for what it was, but it was very sloppy in many areas of its execution. With this one, it is as what people would commonly known as the stupid, silly film. There is no sense of logic. It kind of takes place in a fairy tale, where not much of anything means much, really. And the humor is just goofball, silliness all across the board. Only it's kind of the best example of it, where the movie knows exactly what it is and it delivers and then some. Even on repeat viewings, there are a bunch of one-liners that you didn't realize initially were actually set up to some bigger gags that, kind of explode toward the end of the film. There's this story about Trish, a woman that goes into the water that does not pay off until the very end of the film, in the most hilarious fashion. I think Barb and Star they're stars. They're just hopelessly charming and endlessly captivating. It's hard to really put it into words how this all works together, but it wasn't just them. I think Jamie Dornan in here was kind of a revelation. I think he kind of needs to switch up what he what he does as far as an actor's concerned. I think he can surprisingly was a great comedic actor in this. And they go for some really interesting choices here that are so weird, and in some instances can leave you cackling. We'll get into some of those details, but suffice to say, at the moment, this is my favorite movie of 2021. So there's that.
Oh man, how do I let you down?
You always do, and I expect nothing less. I kind of expect you to have a contrary opinion on Promising Young Woman, and I'm going to hate you for that, but I expect it. I see it coming. But hey, what would it be if you and I were not on opposing sides of it? But I will say, I should have led with this at the top. This is one of those movies, either you're going to go with it or you don't. And it depends entirely on what you look for in humor, on what your type of humor is.
So you're admitting you're wrong.
I'm saying this is the kind of stuff that I can easily go with. And if you can't, your feelings are valid too.
So you're admitting it's bad, but it's the kind of bad that you like?
I think it's time for you to say what you felt, Peter.
I really liked it.
I know you did. I know you're fucking with me here. But yeah,
it was funny. You know what? And this was the big thing I think that won me over, because I've talked about this before on here, is I hate how comedies, modern day comedies, people don't try with those films, right? Like no effort is put into comedies. You get a comedian that's like hot right now. You get a bare bones whatever script. Maybe even the script is good, but like it's shot very boring. It's lit very boring. And everything about it is just done so generic and boring. Like you can't tell the difference between your average comedy and like a commercial. Just looking at it for the most part. They'll throw in whatever songs on the radio that are hot at that time. It probably takes place in New York for whatever reason. Like,
and there are exceptions. And if we can, because like that, I think what you just said right there is kind of a big reason for why, in many ways, the comedy genre, as far as them being hits at the box office, have really declined in the last decade. Can you think of some comedies that stick to your mind that were an exception to this rule in these last 10 years that you really enjoyed?
What was it?
Let's see. Game night.
Game night barely broke out of it.
What about
just barely?
Good Boys.
It was funny, but I'm saying just like the way it was filmed, everything.
The way that
it
it looks, basically, right? Yeah. How about Nice Guys with Shane Black?
Oh, for sure. Nice Guys is great. Nice Guys is. I know you haven't seen it, but Never Stopping.
Oh, yeah. Adam Sandler. No, Adam Sandler. Excuse me, Andy Samberg.
Andy Samberg. Yeah.
Andy Samberg. Yeah. People love that film.
Yes, The Lonely Island, Andy Samberg. They're fucking hilarious. And that's
well, I would argue
really
the other movie that they've done, Palm Springs, maybe fits that exception to the rule. It was very good.
Yeah, but I think that's a little bit more than a comedy.
It is more than a comedy. Yeah.
I'm thinking like just straight up comedy. Like this is a straight up comedy. It kind of reminds me of, just in some of its like absurdity, the old film, the old like sort of like, I don't know, you know, the film Airplane. No, okay, it's an old comedy it's literally just random ridiculous shit constantly thrown at your face. And this, it's not as, it doesn't go as far, but it's a little bit of that with this film. But no, there's obviously a lot of love and care gone into a lot of levels to the film. And just like thinking of what I'm like, the kind of films that I'm thinking about that I hate, or what's her name's friend? Let me look it up.
Melissa McCarthy.
Yes. See, you just knew instantly.
No, yeah. Melissa McCarthy is a great actor, and she's been in some great films, and she's look, Bridesmaids, The Heat, also Can You Ever Forgive Me? But she and her husband make a lot of crappy movies. That's kind of what they're known for. They just had a recent bomb at Netflix that no one, like, it's trash. It's garbage. It's the epitome of what you think garbage is in cinema these days.
Her husband needs to stop.
Think of Tammy. Think of The Boss. Think of Happy Time Murders. Those trashy movies. They're just awful.
Like those kind of comedies, I think, dominate right now. And it's lazy. You know, just get a funny person, tell him, go be funny, and we'll be over here, we'll film it, and then we'll cut it up and release it, and then no other.
It's kind of sad. Given. McCarthy kind of has become the new Adam Sandler in some ways. But she still gets some great roles, but a lot of the things that she makes. Yeah. Well, yeah.
Adam Sandler, I think, has more hits for me. So yeah, this really avoids it. There's a lot of love and care, I think, that went into this film. Like you said, the gags. Like there are a lot of gags throughout the film, And I'm glad you brought. I guess I brought her up, Melissa McCarthy. With her worst films, it really does feel like they put her in front of a camera and they say, "Be funny."
Yeah.
And it's obnoxious because it's just someone. That's what it feels like. They're just like, oh, I gotta do something funny, and like they just make noises and fall down and stuff like that. Here, you can tell there was like jokes written out ahead of time. The script, there was probably some improvisations here and there, but for the most part, there was structure to the jokes. Mm-hmm. And I think people, again, they forget that. They just want to do lazy, easy films, and funny people go be funny. But here, it was all really well done. Just a little thing. Well, I guess they're not little, but sort of when they get to Vista Del Mar and that whole like dance number sequence, like you can tell a lot of work was put into that. Mm-hmm. And though it was really neat. It was really well done. When they get fucked up, drunk, and the way it's shot, like there's a camera strapped to them, and they're kind of look like they're at the bar, but they're like moving away from the bar. And I just knew like they probably had like this contraption, and then it like moved them away, and it's just thought, just the bare minimum thought was put into like, okay, how are we going to visualize them drunk and fucked up? And, another movie would have they wouldn't have thought that far. They're just like, okay, act drunk. Do fun, something funny, piss your pants. But here it's like, oh, there's some thought put into it. And the jokes are funny. And I agree with you. If you don't get it, you don't get it, and that's okay. Yeah. Humor is very, very subjective. I knew I was with it from the very beginning, just because it starts on that little boy, and then it just turns into like Austin Powers. Yeah, in a second. Fucking Dr. Evil shit, and I'm like, okay. Like, this is so stupid. This is funny. I like it. I enjoyed it.
No, it like I said, it brought me such immense joy, and I gotta ask, like, we can probably just, those are feelings in the movie, but are there some gags that stick out to you that were among your favorite, or some moments here? Because I think what also works in this movie's favor, all of those things you said are actually really great points. It's not lazy in any, I think, department that usually this kind of comedy could be. It is a tight script. It is a well-structured script. There are payoffs to a bunch of jokes that you don't even expect. It is shot interestingly, there are wonderful choices made with camera work that make it all on its own. It's a beautiful looking film too, in terms of color as well. It doesn't look like any other comedy, it doesn't look like bland or generic or stale. It's a lot of color flashing in front of you. And of course, I think just about most of the humor lands. If anything, maybe the stuff with, it was humorous, but there were times where that maybe ran a little long, and I'm referring to the detective, the stupid detective.
The stupid detective that would give away everything. That was a little like, okay, I get it. that was the one instance where perhaps it was nearing the area of getting a little old, but for the most part, for a comedy, just about 95% of the stuff lands well. And it does that really well. But it ain't just that. There's also just, and I think this is where the passion comes from, there's this heart in it too. It's not cynical. It's not like, it's not cynical. There's actually this genuine relationship between these two best friends, and you can't help but root for them as people. It kind of really sneaks up at you too. And then they're endearing. Yes. And you root for them.
unlike in most of these films, you're handed a bunch of people who are quite frankly unlikable, and you don't care what happens to any of them because they all suck. And in this case, it's different.
I was so happy because both of these characters, again, like I feel like what you would usually find in today's comedies is they're just really dumb and they annoy the people around them and they just prattle on and on and on, and like they would just be trying to out funny each other, like the actresses, you know what I mean? It would be like this back and forth, and you just go like, oh my gosh, shut up, you know. That's how I feel it would be in a lazier version of this film, the type of other films that get released. But here, yeah, like I agree, they go through the time of like, okay, well, who are these characters, right? Mm-hmm. They're not stupid, but they're these. They clearly love each other. They're very close, and they epitomize like these small town, middle-aged women, you know, and they're not the butt of the joke, but they are funny, and the things they say are funny, and the way that they interact is funny. Like some of the funniest stuff is just like their quote unquote small town life. They have their talking club.
Yeah.
The gag where it's like, okay, it's 7 p.m. and just locks. Go home, you're late. Yeah, no. A lot of that. It worked because the characters worked.
Yeah.
And again, a lot of people forget that in comedies. Like, characters, you should still care about the characters to some extent. It's not just like laugh. You need a little bit more than that. The gags, because I think you had mentioned the gags. The fact that what's his name was in love with the
evil version.
Villain.
Yeah. So Kristen Wiig actually does a dual performance. She's playing, I believe, Barb, right? Mm-hmm. And then she's also playing the main villain. I forget the name of it. But Jamie Dornan, who is basically henchman, you know, the heavy, I guess you could say, is in love with his boss. And so like his whole thing is, oh, after I kill all these people for you, can we be an official couple now? It's just the harping on it. I know, yeah, I know. It's good stuff. For like, she's just like, oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, well, sure. But what makes it so funny is sort of the stunt casting for me, because also he's the rich hunk, irresistible guy from 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah,
you know, and he's here just like a puppy, like. I really want to be an official couple, you know, with all the other couples.
Yeah, it's so unlike. It's so unlike what he usually does. You know, it's playing against typecasting basically.
And then when there's like he has his where he's singing about how he wants to be in a couple on the beach. Mm-hmm. It's I guess this film is half a musical, I guess.
Did you expect that musical number? It just kind of hit you out of nowhere and it came at you fast.
Well, I think because where it hit me is because you had the musical number when they get to
the hotel.
Del Mar. Yeah, the hotel. And then a little bit right after you had this one. I'm like, wait, is this movie just a fucking musical? But that's also cool. I also thought that was cool, though, because you see a lot of older movies. They would just be musical numbers, right?
Yeah.
Like they would happen.
There was a musical number technically in Shape of Water.
Yeah, a little bit. Technically, yeah. But a lot of older films, like it just felt like having a musical number was like standard. At least one. Even if it wasn't a musical, it would just happen.
Yeah.
Sometimes 1, 2, or 3. And then of course you just have like regular musicals. And then of course we moved away from that, but you know. I like it. Musicals are fun.
Yeah, they're well staged, and in this case, they're actually good. I actually the song that Jamie Dornan sings, that should be in contention for Best Original Song at the Oscars next year.
And if they're not cowards, which we know they are.
Which we should, and I should have mentioned, Husavik, the song from Eurovision, has a good chance of winning. It is nominated for Best Original Song, yeah. So if Eurovision can win an Oscar for that song, Barb and Star should win for this one here.
I would want it to get nominated just so I could see him perform it at the Oscars.
Oh my God. But the actors never want to perform their songs. It's always, they always get some other person. Like, I was very disappointed when, like, they couldn't get Gosling and Stone to sing the songs from La La Land. They had to get John Legend to sing it. And I was like, the only ones that ever did were Gaga and Cooper. They actually did have the guts to sing in front of them.
To be fair, they nearly fucked each other right there on the stage. So maybe that wasn't a good idea.
They're actors, Peter.
Uh-huh. That's why he got divorced like a month later. Okay.
Oh my God. Don't encourage Kyle. Don't encourage that fantasy. You never want to do that because it only leads to places that are not they're not good results for us.
Not safe for work.
Yeah. Yeah, man, it was just so much fun. There was this great bit with Morgan Freeman, the crab.
Yeah, so
God
stupid.
Damn, wasn't that a lot of these things are just so random, but yet they work so well. There's also, I think, Trish, which is just like, I guess the Eagles from Lord of the Rings, right? Like, she saves the day, she saves Barb and Star, and it's Reba McEntire. It's like just the random things that you. And then I think the movie ends with her as if she were narrating the whole story, and then it cuts to credits and everything. I mean, it's just absurdist stuff, but yet it lands very, very well. Like, you wouldn't expect it to work on you. And I think, and to be fair, there have been people who it doesn't work on and it won't work on. But if you're open to it, I think you can let this movie kind of like whisk you away.
Humor
it's just joy.
Is so difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And we've said this before, but it's like everyone knows film is subjective, art is subjective. If that's true, humor is that times a million, right? Because the things that'll make me laugh won't make you laugh. And there's no right or wrong in that. It's just we have different kinds of humor. So I understand how a lot of people, this wouldn't work with them. Yeah. They're just like, why? You know? Or they just think like, yeah, this is too dumb. You know, I know people are like, yeah, this is stupid. I don't want to see this. But for me, I like it. It works for me. I like stupid, absurdist humor.
Yeah. It's like, for me, like, of the new movies I've seen for 2021, and I think I've seen 5 or 6. I mean 2021, not the leftovers from 2020. There's a distinction there. There
is a distinction.
And I'm talking about like Raya, Judas, Godzilla, Tom and Jerry, Snyder Cut. That counts, right? Snyder Cut for counts.
Sure. It's a whole new movie.
Yeah. This one far and away is my favorite. And I have to say, if Barb and Star were a 2020 contender,
be number one.
It would be close to number one. I'll tell you that. It'd be very close to number one. Which I should also remind people, as I did last week, or at least last episode, we will do a top 10 movies of 2020 list. That it will happen. It's not going to change. At the moment, we hope to have it out by the end of May. Mm-hmm. And I keep reminding everyone on the panel here, and yet I get the feeling that no one really is doing the work. I have like, 2 movies to see? Well, not really. I mean, I haven't made up my mind about which ones I want to go see, but there are several movies I can go out there and see right now. But since we have the time, why the hell not? But I I do want to make sure we have that out. Although we had planned to do it by the time that the Oscars came, we lost track of time, and there were other things that we were devoting time to. And it's also hard too, because we're also covering new shows and new movies for this year at the same time. It's hard. It's really hard.
There is quite a bit of content dropping. Like just yesterday. Or today. Is today Friday?
It's Friday, yeah.
Today
that we're recording, it's Friday.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier dropped.
Mm-hmm.
Invincible.
Yeah.
The penultimate episode of this first season dropped.
Mm-hmm.
And then I believe the Mortal Kombat movie.
That's right. I forgot that happened, but yeah, it's live right now. And that should be one of the films that we should be talking about soon, hopefully. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's a lot of stuff to drop.
Yeah.
So, a lot going on. Finally.
Yeah. But that also just means like it's a lot to manage. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's impossible to keep on top of it all. But so far I think we've done a good enough job of doing it. We've been able to do almost every week, 2 episodes a week. It's a lot of podcasts. And as a reminder, if you're listening, of course, you can listen to podcasts anywhere you listen to podcasts. And if you're not aware, and I think I should make more of an effort to make you aware, we do have timestamps in our descriptions. So if there are certain discussions that you are more interested in listening to than others, by all means, be our guest. Look at those descriptions and look at those timestamps, and you can judge whether you're interested in certain discussions and you're not. We try to have a good mix of stories as far as the film industry is concerned, and then as far as what we choose to cover. Invincible, I have to think at some point we are going to talk about that show on a much more in-depth basis. We haven't done that week to week because there just isn't the time. The priority is the Marvel show, and we've been doing that with David. We have limited schedule, so there's always the opportunity to do, more episodes, more themed material, but we're even having a hard time keeping up with the Oscars this year. And quite frankly, no one seems to care that much about it anyway. So
I think that's why.
Yeah, that's kind of where we are. But we will have reviews on some of these movies like The Father, Promising Young Woman, Minari, and Mank relatively soon, right? I think by the time that we hit the end of May, we should have covered these movies.
Well, clearly, since that's when we'll be doing
the top 10 of the year.
The top 10.
Yeah, one would hope. You have anything else to say for this week?
This week, no. I think we covered just about. I guess this is a story, right? It dropped today that they're gonna do Captain America 4 movie.
Yeah. We will discuss that much more in depth in the finale episode for Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Mm-hmm. But just so it's out there, this is actually pretty amazing news where Sam Wilson, who is a character who you never would have imagined would get his own movie, got his own TV show. And this has to be a new development because as the report said today, this doesn't have a release date, and it seems to be it's in the early stages. They have the writers, and the writers are one of them wrote some of the episodes for this show, and the other was the primary showrunner for this series. So I have to imagine that this project came relatively recently, and I just think it's a great thing overall. I mean, we get basically more Captain America movies, but it's with Sam Wilson, not with Steve Rogers, and I think it's important. In I don't know if this discounts that there will be a season 2 of this.
Well, that's why I found it interesting, because I was like, are they going to do a season 2? They could do a season 2. But Captain America's a pretty big character, so now they're going to do a film. So I thought that was really interesting.
I think all of that is still on the table. quite frankly. But it's great that we get to have the Black Captain America have his movie.
You mean Black Falcon?
Sure. But we'll have much more of that when we get with David Francisco. But that's all said right now. Stay under the spotlight, everyone, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.